An Air Force pilot named Jackson soars through the skies when suddenly his jet loses all of its power. Jackson awakens from his dream, and his daughter Emma talks to him about ghosts. Emma asks if her father dreamt about the plane crash again, but Jackson doesn't want to talk about it. Jackson's father-in-law, Richard, calls the children to the table for breakfast. Jackson's son, Ethan, teases his sister for saying that a ghost broke their father's miniature lander. Jackson reminds Emma that ghosts aren't real but challenges her to make a believable case to prove her theory. The adults make their way outside to talk about the spreading disease named blight affecting the farms. Jackson and the kids leave their home, and on their way to school, they blow a tire. Jackson orders Ethan to patch up the tires while he and Emma talk. A military drone passes above them, and Jackson hurries the children inside. They follow the drone, despite having a flat tire. Passing through the cornfields, Ethan assumes control of the vehicle while his father scrambles for his equipment. Jackson is preoccupied with trying to capture the drone. Not realizing they're at the edge of a cliff, Jackson successfully hacks the drone, and he lands it with Emma's help. With no military for the drone to serve, Jackson intends to give it a better purpose. They arrive at school. Ethan leaves for class while Emma stays in the car. Jackson attends a parent-teacher conference where the principal expresses Ethan's potential of being a great farmer someday. But Jackson wants Ethan to go to college and argues that taxpayer money should fund the university, since there are no more armies. The country, however, doesn't need any more college-educated people. They need farmers to help the worldwide famine. Next, Emma's teacher shows concern over her interest in the moon landing. The moon landing is now considered a fake, and Emma shouldn't focus on such things. When the teacher calls the so-called breakthroughs of society useless, Jackson argues that if those useless breakthroughs like the MRI was still being produced, his wife would still be alive. The teacher apologizes and asks for Jackson's help concerning Emma's behavior. Jackson says he'll handle it by taking her to a baseball game. Jackson returns to the car and tells Emma she's suspended. They head back to the farm, where the tractors have gone haywire. In Emma's room, they find books all over the floor. Emma says it's the ghost communicating through Morse code, but Jackson disagrees. Later that day, Jackson fixes the tractors, but the reason they malfunctioned remains a mystery. He and Richard reminisce about the old days when there was an innovation every day. Richard likes the world's current peaceful situation, but he worries about Jackson's unrelenting dream of space travel. At the baseball game, Ethan agrees to take care of the farm in the future. Suddenly, sirens start wailing, bringing a sandstorm to the people's attention. Everyone doesn't seem too alarmed, and they leave in an orderly fashion. The family drives back to their home when Emma realizes that she left the window open. She and Jackson run up to close it. As the dust settles, Jackson observes the strange pattern on the floor. The next day, Emma finds her father in her room. Jackson throws a coin that quickly drops to the floor. He smiles, saying that the ghost in Emma's room is gravity all along. Realizing that the sand is communicating through binary, the father-daughter duo pulls out a map to mark the coordinates given by the sand. Jackson prepares to head to the location, refusing to let Emma go with him. But Emma stows away by hiding under the blankets, forcing Jackson to let her join. Night arrives, and Jackson drives carefully around the unknown area. He exits the vehicle to cut down the gate blocking them. A flashlight turns on, and a voice threatens Jackson before tasing him. Inside the protected area, Jackson wakes up and gets interrogated by Tars, a tactical robot. Dr. Amelia Brand enters the room, introducing herself to Jackson, who's familiar with another Professor Brand. Amelia leads Jackson to a conference room where his daughter mingles with the elderly crowd. There he reconnects with Professor Brand. Jackson explains how they found the hidden base vaguely until Emma blurts out that gravity led them. Jackson refuses to say more unless their safety is guaranteed. They laugh at him as they reveal their NASA. Behind the walls is a group of engineers working on a rocket ship. Professor Brand explains how society doesn't support funding for space exploration anymore because of the famine. However, they've transitioned their efforts to finding a solution to the food shortage. Different crops get affected by the blight disease each year. Wheat and potatoes are no longer grown, and they expect corn to be the next to fall. The blight consumes the oxygen on Earth. Thus, Professor Brand predicts that Emma's generation will be the last to survive. NASA has no plan to save the world, but they plan to leave it. Professor Brand introduces Jackson to Project Endurance, the final addition to the Lazarus missions. The Lazarus missions are Earth's last expedition in hopes of finding a habitable planet. After some convincing, Jackson agrees to be Project Endurance's pilot for humanity and especially for his children. At the conference room, Jackson gets briefed for the mission. NASA has discovered a wormhole near Saturn that leads to another galaxy. They also think that some omnibenevolent beings placed the wormhole as a means to help humans. 10 years ago, NASA sent 12 astronauts to the 12 planets. Only 3 have sent transmissions about their planet's suitability for life. The mission has a Plan A and a Plan B. Plan A is to use the entire facility, the one they're currently in, as a spacecraft that will harness gravitational forces to propel itself and the surviving humans into space. However, the process is only in theory. Professor Brand is yet to translate it into practice. Plan B, on the other hand, will send thousands of fertilized eggs to start a colony on the new planet. With a determined look, Professor Brand assures Cooper that Plan A will be operational by the time he returns. His words reach Cooper's soul, and from then on, Cooper puts his complete faith in him. Back at home, Cooper tries to talk to Mirth, who's saddened by the news of her father leaving. Donald confronts Cooper later that night about his dream of space travel finally coming to reality. Cooper says that the mission is humankind's final hope. It's time they leave the planet that's been slowly killing them off. Morning arrives, and Cooper comforts Mirth. Cooper tells her that he's only doing this for her and Tom. Mirth tries to change his mind, saying that the message from the ghost is the word stay. Cooper doesn't listen and hugs her tightly as if it's the last time. He gives her a watch, telling her that time in space is slower than on Earth and that they may be the same age when he returns. However, she throws it away out of anger. Cooper bids farewell and assures her he'll be back outside. Cooper hugs his son, passing the truck and his responsibilities to him in the car. He looks under the blanket to make sure Mirth isn't there. After he's driven off, Mirth runs to chase him, but she's too late. As the countdown commences, drops of tears flow down his face as if it's counting for him. The rocket launches, and Cooper's crew, along with Tars, leaves their home in space. Amelia engages in playful banter with Cooper. They near the Endurance space station, and Doyle prepares to lock the hatch, successfully docking the spacecraft. The crew enters the station and powers up the controls and case. Another tactical robot, the boosters turn on, and the space station starts rotating. Romilly, another member of the crew, feels sick. Amelia fetches him some medication. Professor Brand appears on the screen and wishes them good luck with their 2-year journey to Saturn. Endurance starts spinning its way into the deep dark space on the window. Cooper observes Earth now miles away. Meanwhile, Romilly enters his chamber, getting ready for deep sleep. Amelia and Cooper talk about the 3 astronauts they're potentially meeting: Dr. Mann, Dr. Miller, and Dr. Edmonds. Dr. Mann receives high praise from her as he inspired the rest of them to follow him on the dangerous expedition. Amelia enters her chamber, and Cooper takes this time to talk to Tars privately. He asks the robot if Amelia has a relationship with Dr. Edmonds. TARS dodges the question, saying it's programmed not to disclose sensitive information. Cooper sits in front of the video recorder, saying his goodbyes to his children before he goes into a deep sleep. Back on Earth, Professor Brand visits Cooper's family. He gives them the video message from Cooper, but Murph isn't interested. Brand talks to Donald about taking Murph under his wing. Years pass, and near the outskirts of Saturn, a faint shine is seen passing by. Cooper is awake, watching the video messages from his family. He sits beside Romilly, who seems paranoid about their situation. Cooper comforts him and lets him borrow his earphones. Doyle and Cooper review images collected by probes that went through the wormhole on the radio. Amelia informs the crew that they'll reach the wormhole in a few hours. The crew sits anxiously in their spacesuits with the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders. The ship's integrity barely keeps up with the insane speeds as they travel through the wormhole. On her side, Amelia sees a distortion in space, seemingly like an arm reaching out. Thinking it's the omnibenevolent beings, she reaches out. Then, everything goes silent. The ship stabilizes, and they float smoothly once again. The crew gathers for a meeting. They decide on which planet to travel to. Dr. Edmonds has lost connection to the crew, leaving them with 2 choices. One of the choices is a planet near Gargantua, a black hole. And now there is 7 years on Earth. With this information, Doyle and Cooper argue. Doyle wants to proceed with Plan B and let everyone on Earth die. Cooper proposes a middle ground. The ship will travel to the opposite side of Gargantua so that their time won't get affected. When they land, the crew agrees with the plan. After some preparations, Case accompanies the crew in the expedition to the planet, while Romilly stays behind. They experience heavy turbulence as they near the planet's surface. The crew readies for landing, and a vast ocean meets them as they pass through the clouds. Cooper expertly pilots the craft, precisely stopping just before hitting the waters. Time is ticking, and Doyle and Amelia venture out into the shallow seas. CASE finds debris from Dr. Miller's beacon. They try to find the rest of the wreckage. Walking towards the mountains ahead, inside the ship, Cooper realizes that the mountains are waves. Fortunately, the waves are moving away from them. Unfortunately, another follows it from behind. Despite the towering wall of water, Amelia continues her search for Dr. Miller's data. She finds it but falls as she tries to pull it out. Case transforms to a wheel and rushes towards her. It carries her to the ship, and Cooper closes the hatch, just as Doyle is about to enter the Ruffwaff. Just as Smith is about to enter, the turbulent waves carry him away. The wave makes contact with the boat, flooding the interior. They get flung around inside as they surf the wave. They survive the rough seas, but the boat is damaged. Johnson snaps at Emily for not returning when he told her to. They've been on the island for almost an hour. Not only did they lose Smith, but they also lost decades worth of time. Emily believes that Dr. Anderson just landed on the island hours ago due to the time difference, hence why the wreckage was somewhat intact. Their hopelessness grows when Johnson realizes his son is now an adult. The waves don't give them time to rest as another is about to crash into them. Their desperate attempts to restart the engine work, and they sail off into safety. Back in the boat, a much older Thompson welcomes them. They've been gone for over 23 years, leaving the two in disbelief. Thompson informs them that he has learned all he can from the mysterious waters, but couldn't send his research to the mainland. Meanwhile, Johnson goes through over 23 years of video messages, seeing his children's lives pass him by. Johnson tears up as his timid young boy has now become a husband, a father, and a parent who lost a child in a span of several videos. Daniel died, and Emma had grown distant. Alex says his goodbyes as he accepts that Johnson isn't coming back. The screen fades to black, and Emma appears, starting her message by cursing at her father. It's her birthday, and she's the same age as Johnson. She finishes off her message by asking him to return. Emma dries her tears and sees Professor Davis in a wheelchair by the door. He's surprised to see her sending her first message. They make their way to his office to work together on the still unsolved theory. Emma stares intently at the board. She realizes that they've been looking at the equation all wrong. 40. Professor Davis knows about this, but Emma doesn't understand why he doesn't make a change. Back on the journey, they weigh their options of visiting Dr. Miller's island or Edmonds, who has stopped transmitting a while back. Emily believes that the latter is the better option as it's farther from the mysterious waters. Johnson argues that Dr. Miller, who continues to send transmissions, is the obvious choice. Before they start a vote, Johnson informs Thompson about Emily's bias for Edmonds Island since they have a relationship. Emily doesn't deny it. Instead, she even pushes the idea of their love being more than enough of a reason for them to choose Edmund. The two aren't affected by her emotional speech, and they chart a course to Dr. Miller's island. On the mainland, Alex fulfilled his potential of being a farmer. He burns a line of crops to stop the blight from spreading. Emma visits Alex and his wife, Laura. Tom's second daughter, Colette, grapples with respiratory issues caused by the persistent dust storms in the region and the worsening state of the planet. Meanwhile, in Endurance, Amelia harbors resentment towards Cooper. She insists that if Dr. Mann's planet proves unsuitable, they must either return or proceed with Plan B on Edmund's planet, potentially sacrificing billions of lives on Earth. Mirth hurries to the hospital to visit Professor Brand. As he nears the end, she assures him she'll fulfill his mission. Brand confesses that Project Endurance was never meant to return, revealing that Plan A and the entire theory were deceitful. Mirth, shocked and frustrated, is left to grapple with this revelation. Mirth broadcasts the truth in a video message, accusing Amelia of being complicit in her father's lies. A spacecraft approaches Dr. Mann's planet, and the crew discovers a base amid snowy mountains, where they find Dr. Mann in deep slumber. Mann reveals that the planet's current location lacks breathable air, but a lower surface could support life. Tars urges Amelia to watch the video message. Exposing the lies, Murph's revelation leaves Cooper in disbelief. Amelia denies knowledge, and Mann justifies Brand's actions, claiming the sacrifice of Earth's population is necessary to save humanity. Cooper, rejecting this, plans to return to Earth. Back on Earth, Murph informs her colleague, Getty, about Brand's lies. Getty believes society deserves to know the truth, but Murph, clinging to Planner, refuses to disclose the information. She recalls the ghost in her room and resolves to decipher its messages. Murph revisits her old room while Getty checks on Tom's family. Tom confronts Getty, and tensions rise. Murph provokes Tom about waiting for another tragedy before leaving. Tom threatens them to leave. In the cornfields, Murph ignites a fire to distract Tom and save his family on the alien planet. Cooper prepares to depart for Earth. Romilly suggests sending Tars into the black hole for information, revealing his human side as he accepts the challenge. Dr. Mann prepares to set up the lab and habitat modules sent from Endurance. Cooper joins Mann to scout locations, and Mann discusses human survival instincts, growing increasingly peculiar. At an abyss, Mann betrays Cooper, confessing he faked data, and the planet isn't habitable. They struggle, Mann exposing Cooper to toxic air, leaving him to suffocate. Cooper calls for Amelia, who rescues him. They expose Mann's lies. Romilly modifies Tars, sensing trouble in Dr. Mann's data. An explosion occurs, and Mann is surprised by the turn of events. Tars relays news of Romilly's death. Dr. Mann boards the ship, planning to abandon the crew. Cooper communicates, but Mann doesn't respond. The auto-docking is disabled, and Mann attempts a manual docking, risking the ship's safety. Despite warnings, Mann opens the hatch, causing an explosion seen by the crew from a distance. Cooper takes command of the spacecraft, intending to pursue Endurance at high speeds, case objects. But Cooper insists it's necessary. Aligned under the docking area, Tars opens the hatch, and the ship rotates with Endurance, causing intense G-force. After successful docking, they celebrate until Case warns of their course towards Gargantua. Navigating damaged corridors, Amelia discovers stable power, but navigation is lost. Unable to return to Earth, Cooper plans to use Gargantua as a slingshot to reach Edmund's planet. They prepare, jettisoning weight, including Tars. Cooper sacrifices himself to propel the ship towards Edmund. Amelia and Tars reach maximum velocity in Gargantua's orbit. Engines fire off, and Cooper detaches, entering the black hole's center. Communicating through Morse code in Murph's past, he urges his younger self to stay. Present, Murph realizes Cooper's ghost was her father. Tars survives in a dimension where time is a physical plane. Cooper uses gravity to send a message to Murph, giving her the data for Plan A. Murph decodes the message, executing Planner successfully. Cooper awakens in a hospital near Saturn. Named Cooper Station after his daughter, he tours a museum honoring his life, reunites with Tars, and sees descendants. Murph, now elderly, urges him to find Amelia. Amelia and Case are on Edmund's planet, while Cooper and Tars embark on a journey to reunite with them. The benevolent beings, evolved humans in a multi-dimensional plane, facilitated humanity's survival and progress. Cooper, ejected from the black hole, ages slowly near Saturn. Guided by the slower time experienced, he meets an older Murph, who directs him to find Amelia, unaware that Cooper is on his way.